So we've got Claude Opus 4.6 and GPT 5.3 Codex, which are the best named products out there, I'm convinced. Are these tools directly competitive? I mean, let's start there.
Yeah, so maybe I can frame them. They are slightly different tools. So Opus 4.6 is what we consider sort of a general reasoning model. It's really intended to be placed within an agent harness. It is the same model you may use within a product like Claude Code for code generation, but we also use it in our product for general knowledge work tasks. Codex is more specific to code generation tasks. Again, we're beginning to see a trend of adding file system management, some more general knowledge work features onto these products. They are slightly different though on the surface.
So OpenAI is really sorry, the other way around. Opus is a little it's a little more general, but Codex is a lot more specific for coding.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Now, so is there a discussion around which is better for coding? Is this a rivalry? I mean, how do you see it?
Yeah, it's interesting. So we're looking at this through two lenses. There's the coding lens, where there is sort of a fierce standoff between Codex and Claude Code. I personally am a Claude Code user. I love the interface. I think what they've done with co-work on top of that is great for folks who are iterating between files and code like I am. Codex is great for long-running sort of agentic coding tasks, right? And so if you go onto the software development floor here at Harvey or in our other offices, it's not uncommon to see engineers with, 3 or 4 Claude Code terminals open, running tasks, and then 3 or 4 Codex jobs running in the background all at the same time, right?
Hmm. So when someone comes to you and says which is better, what do you say to that?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I think there's an interesting phenomenon here. So I think what we're observing from the field is there is this will happen once or twice a year, right? There's an inflection point in model capability. We see a step function improvement at how the models perform on certain tasks. I actually think the last inflection point that we saw with respect to model capability was in December of last year, Q4 of last year, and we saw Opus 4.5 and GPT-5.2
Okay.
released. But this pushes up the ecosystem as a whole because all of the other labs will scramble essentially to reach the same level of performance. With the Opus 4.6 release yesterday, I think you can see there is a little bit more juice to be squeezed in this particular flavor of model. And so if I'm taking on an analytical task, if it requires file system management, for us, this could be a lawyer working within Harvey for deal management, due diligence, potentially complex transactional tasks. My model of choice today would be Opus 4.6. That said, there are other constraints that might come into play: cost, latency, long form writing. GPT 5.2 still has a little bit of an edge, but that's sort of the breakdown from my end.
I don't know if you'll be comfortable answering the question, but do you guys at Harvey? I mean, do you have brand loyalty to Anthropic versus OpenAI in terms of the products that you use?
Yeah, I think, our responsibility, we view our responsibility as putting the best model into the product for the use cases that our customers care about. Right. So, from the perspective of the AI research team, we're going to evaluate every new model that comes out, and we are going to put the one that is best suited for a particular use case in the product. I know, what you're hinting at is very much true. We live in dynamic, sort of turbulent, volatile environment right now. It's hotly competitive, and as you sort of alluded to at the beginning, I didn't think Super Bowl ads would sort of become the town commons for this sort of discussion. So we certainly take that into account. We view both OpenAI and Anthropic as strategic partners in the long
Right.
term.
Well, because it is kind of interesting. You talked about like the model releases that are really inflection points. I mean,
Mhm.
the way that I've seen this rivalry play out over the past couple months is you either have a product release, which is really making a lot of noise and is clearly a step above. And that's when people start to re up this discussion of there is a heated rivalry. If the model releases are more incremental, then you sort of hear less about it. But then you have sort of the branding side, which is like, what are the founders saying? What are the campaigns that are being run? What are the Super Bowl ads, focused on?
Yeah.
And when that happens, You just said that, maybe the 5.3 and 4.6, they may have been more incremental in terms of revisions or iterations, but now the brand discussion is so significant that everyone's like going back to, well, what are the products actually doing? I feel like that's why people are so focused on it right now.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. On the one hand, it's extremely valuable to be perceived as the AI model that is leading for consumer applications. On the other hand, it's extremely valuable to be perceived as a leading model for enterprise applications, right? And so we see positioning from both labs on this front, and you can see that in the investments that they're making for specific verticals. From our perspective, we're interested in partnering with the labs to improve the models on the capabilities and the use cases that are top of mind for us. And honestly, this sort of frenzy of activity just raises the bar for our product.
So let me ask you this: what Harvey? How old is Harvey now? The company?
Just over 3 years, maybe
3 years.
3.5.
Okay, so you guys are building this company from scratch, and you have to build all of the backend softwares that all of the other software companies have had to build. You presumably have a CRM. You have, uh, database management software. Playing out in the market right now is the idea that, or the question: can you just code your own CRM? Can you just build your own software with AI? And you have bigger companies out there saying, well, you're never going to be able to do this at scale for 10,000 people,
Mhm.
just with a snap of a finger. You are building your company from scratch. Are you able to build your own CRMs, your own database softwares? Can you do all this with AI right now?
Yeah, so we actually did start in a unique position, and as an early application layer company, a lot of infrastructure, especially sort of infrastructure for AI, like databases, all of these things, evaluation, tooling, infrastructure, we self-built, right? And that's largely because a lot of it did not exist. Today, I think we're already reaching a scale where we are seeing a disparity between, from my perspective, it's really a maintenance question, not a can you do it question, right? I'm sure if you put a group of 10 engineers into a conference room together and said, build us a CRM, you could do it. But in our domain specifically, like we see the difference between enterprise grade applications and non-enterprise grade applications pretty starkly, right? For us, it comes down to things like governance, security, privacy, ethical walls, all of these sorts of things. But the same is true for other sort of large scale, what I would really consider like the infrastructure of a company, both on the technical and non-technical side.
So in other words, it sounds like you, an up fast growing startup, you are still buying all of these quote unquote old school enterprise software tools that everyone is scared is going to be replaced by AI.
Yeah, I think we'd have to go down the laundry list and check each one off. But we are building for scale and we're building enterprise grade applications. I think we're less interested in spending our research and engineering effort on rebuilding these tools.
Great. Well, Nico, I want to thank you for coming on. That is Nico Gruppen, head of applied research at Harvey here on TITV.